Common Filth Extra episode 43 is available now, and on this episode of it, we talk about truck stop horror stories. It's available now for $1 or more on commonfilthradio.bandcamp.com, but if you've been thinking about buying one of these fine products from my merch page on commonfilthradio.bandcamp.com/merch, you get Common Filth Extra episode 43 for free. You get a free download of it. It's a great deal. Take advantage of it while you can. I would like to thank MXKZXMXSXR. Please improve your branding, bro. This was sent to me from him. It says, "The Nips saw it all coming." This is from 1988. It's a quote from an anime, along with some very disturbing imagery. I don't know what it's called, but I'm going to read the quote. It says, "As society lost its ability to act, social life and culture trod the road to decadence. Those addicted to drugs, alcohol, sexual promiscuity, and mysticism multiplied." I don't know what that quote is from. I see the images. I don't know what the particular piece it's from, what show it's from, what series it's from. So if somebody could tell me that, that would be really cool. But that perfectly describes where we are, aren't we? Somewhere in America, the Somewhere in America Twitter account, inspired after the video I did called Somewhere in America, said somewhere in America, there are people out there who are making a religion based around frog pictures, frog cartoons saying it'll save the white race. Well, as Harold Covington said, the white race is doing its ghost dance right now. It's one last hurrah. Over the past year, the issues that the prevailing social orthodoxy causes have been completely de-emphasized or even denied. We don't care if our fellow man is addicted to drugs, alcohol, sexual promiscuity, and mysticism. We don't care if we are, because often we are. We identify with that. We think that's a good thing. We think that's a part of our culture worthy of preserving. You see, we no longer see ourselves as moral agents. We see ourselves as pieces of seaweed. Our direction is determined by the currents. We're just a tabula rasa. We don't have any impulses. No, the only wrongdoing we do is because of somebody else. Get this one. This one says, from Battlefield Trip on Twitter, @BattlefieldTrip, "Some people have asked me, even recently, why are you friends with fucking white nationalists? Well, I knew them when they were social justice queers." Let that sink in. You notice how there's an uptick, an exponential uptick in people whose morality is, whose entire approach to life is, it's okay if white people do it because they still value everything that those who value social justice value. They think transsexualism is fine. They think drug abuse is fine as long as it's casual. They think sodomy is fine. They think acting like a complete animal is fine, just as long as you're white. Here's confirmation of it. Last week, we heard about the free and tolerant culture we need to preserve, coming from people who represent the worst parts of our culture. Yeah, those are the ones you need to be ignoring. You need to ignore sodomite orders. Going back a little bit to the tabula rasa, that's how we see ourselves. We really think we're perfect, and the only reason we're imperfect is because of other people. Other people are a bad influence. No, it doesn't reflect poorly on me that I can't avoid those bad influences. Shut up. Of course, these people with this worldview don't view the social orthodoxy as a bad thing. They don't see it going in the wrong direction because they belong to it. They benefit from it somehow. I don't know how, but that's how they see it. So what do they focus on? They focus on the political system. Oh, the people who do stuff for me, because they don't see themselves as moral agents. Again, they view themselves as pieces of seaweed. A tabula rasa. This is what happens when you completely abdicate your moral responsibility. Your responsibility to adhere to the laws of nature. They know they're acting wrong, which is why they seek to socialize the costs of their sin through political means. Somebody who will cover for them, instead of getting what they've earned. And we're more than happy to shield people from the consequences of their wrongdoing by rationalizing it as a good thing. We go back to the beginning of last week's show, where that idiot's holding up the rainbow Gadsden flag, and saying that everybody took pictures with him and hugged him because we see ourselves in the sodomite, don't we? White people are a bunch of perverts. They represent the height of perversion. And we conflate freedom with sexual promiscuity, sexual deviance. Libertarians are the most honest people about it, but you'll be hard pressed to find a non-white libertarian. They're the most honest about it. Our culture conflates this incorrectly. So the homosexual is the height of freedom and what we value as a people, and everybody agrees with that. Everybody agrees with that. There's nobody held in higher esteem in our social hierarchy than the homosexual. We live in denial as to how horrible these people really are, how predatory these people are, how vicious these people are, how underhanded these people are, how perverted they are, how treacherous they are. The show has documented so many examples of this. So when the treacherous, predatory pervert says that we have a good culture that we need to preserve, you know you're in trouble. You need to ignore their orders. But no, we give them somebody who will shield them from the consequences of their actions. And isn't that what we all want? We're like children. We shriek at the slightest potential of consequences for our sin, which is why we are the perfect host for the socialist, cultural communist virus. Interesting how nobody talks about cultural Marxism anymore, and how through it, homosexuality is normalized, divorce is normalized, wanton promiscuity is normalized. We ignore all that. We're just like, yeah, all that's fine. Just keep it with mostly white people, because it's okay when we do it. My hatred of cultural Marxism is what set me down this path. Learning about the term cultural Marxism is what set me down this path. And you know, I'm glad I'm on it. But I'm not going to shield my eyes and pretend it's okay when white people are becoming the perfect cultural Marxists. I'm going to read you an email. Please listen. Listen up. This is very, very important. Hey, CF, retrospectively, I came across a bit ranty and a bit more personal than I expected out of this. And this isn't a question so much as it is a response to something you tweeted out. You don't have to read it on tomorrow or next week's episode. Responding via an email would be fine. Well, I made sure that this is okay to read beforehand, and it is. I got permission, so here we go. I watched, probably unlike most of your followers, a titled video from beginning to end, Why Christians Shouldn't Vote in the Upcoming Election. I, ironically, had already cast my vote for the election, and I had voted for somewhat begrudgingly. I am now calling the local town office to undo my vote, and I will not be voting in the election. I'm appalled at the behavior of almost everyone in this country as of the last 6 months of my life. Granted, I've been watching you for the last year now, but it's been within these last few months in which I've found nothing but dismay and trouble within both the people who I'm now ashamed of saying are a part of my race, both indirectly on your end and personally as well, and the people who I've once associated myself with in my personal life. I have, as you've said before, completely lost my faith in man. But this process hasn't been a fast one. This isn't some quick and state of enlightenment that comes to me through writing this email, trying to feel better about myself in the process of doing so. This isn't an edgy teen phase I'm going through either. No, it's taken its toll on me for over the last 2 years. It happens in slow ways, seeing the blue-dyed hair, septum-pierced white girl sporting a choker collar walking down the street. The choker collar, otherwise known as the black belt and sucking dick, holding hands with her girlfriend, a girlfriend whom you thought you had a future with, cheating on you before leaving to college to have a lesbian girlfriend 2 months later, a former friend of mine changing his name to Lindsay and becoming a basement reclusive furry. It's a never-ending torrent of absolute lunacy. And it's even more appalling to witness this behavior conducted at my age level. I'm 18, white, live in an otherwise rural area in one of the northmost parts of Wisconsin. You would think that in this area that it would be one of the safer places to raise your children. Physically, yes, you're safe from harm, gang violence, etc. Spiritually, you have no idea. The parties, booze, cheap weed, all being passed around and distributed amongst the youth, At these parties, and the parents wonder why there's at least a girl a year who gets gang raped there. The ones that don't lose their virginity by the time they're 16 control their urges by becoming potheads or sex addicts. I was in a forensics league during my junior year in high school, and I was talking to a friend of mine who had told me that 80% of the people in our league have had group sex and have swapped significant others that are in relationships before. Let that sink in for a second. They have meetups at all at their houses to play video games, get drunk, and fuck one another. They've sworn to secrecy not to tell anyone this, and the only reason why my friend figured this out is from his younger brother, who's also in the league, getting invited to one of these events. Thank God he told on them. It's within these rural neighborhoods and fringe communities that I find often the worst kinds of people who, unbeknownst to the teachers and communities in the city and town sense, are seen in a good light only because they selectively show what they want to their superiors, be they teachers, parents, or other. I stumbled across a 4.0 GPA kid who was in one of my Spanish classes discussing fisting his girlfriend over text messages and attempting to talk his girlfriend to get his younger 13-year-old sister into it. Let me repeat that. The author of this email says, I stumbled across a 4.0 kid who was in one of my Spanish classes discussing fisting his girlfriend over text messages and attempting to talk his girlfriend to get his younger 13-year-old sister into it. I've witnessed a girl who I took religious education with twerking on and drunkenly making out with some native dude over a Snapchat video. Girls giving handjobs to their boyfriends on the bus. People fucking inside classrooms, gay guys dressing up as tampons for Halloween. Cross-dressing day at school being approved by the student council. Almost all the teachers participated. Politics can only go so far at stopping problems in our country. When I vote for a president that permits in even the slightest degree this behavior acceptable, when it's this behavior that creates attitude of hedonism to exist in a learning environment, rationalizing that he or she is the better of the two evils can only go so far. When I am told that I'm air quote oppressing a woman for telling her not to dress like a skank, didn't actually say skank to her, point still stands. When she's got a tank top and short shorts on and flaunting her outfit over Facebook, we have problems with modern day feminism. Yes, we get it. When I have a problem with having to explain what homosexuality is to your younger brother after he witnesses two faggots making out in the Walmart toy aisle and why it's wrong, I am attacked by both political parties, or teenagers in general for being homophobic, or called an asshole under the same reasoning and told to tolerate this behavior in a public environment. I cannot allow this to continue. I don't know what I'll do about it. One person sending another like-minded individual an email detailing why their generation is doomed won't solve anything. Voting after watching that video won't solve anything either. When the preacher in the video asked who would Jesus vote for, the aforementioned point about politics came to me. I realize now that our nation's youth are destined to furthermore get sucked up into a spiritual black hole, and they will come out malformed and completely different people from who they were before they entered it. Some will see half the light and come to their senses only after the damage is done. Some, sadly, will reflect on that point in their life as one of the best and tell their kids, if they even choose to have them, that they should partake in these activities under the guise of them needing to be social, or whatever the case is. And they're surrounded by bad influences as well. I've got to have to disagree with you in regards to choice. Say what you personally want about them deciding to do this behavior. I understand that. But there's an element of brainwashing involved in it too. When you're bombarded as a child with images of men flaunting about wads of cash, grinding on women at a party, partaking in animalistic behavior, you become not only desensitized to it, but you also idolize that behavior as well. Lots of young men and women at my age look up and listen to rappers, models, DJs, false gods, as you in the First Commandment have so aptly put it. They idolize people who endorse relief and hedonism, and oftentimes they don't see another medium to look up to. Whether that be a result of poor parenting or media influencing the things they consume, which I guess would be a good example of them choosing to consume that media, is irrelevant. When they see this behavior and raise children with similar values, it makes it difficult to find genuinely good people anymore. I didn't even consider myself spiritual. Granted, I was raised in a Catholic household, but I considered myself to be an agnostic national socialist for a year of my life, and defending my race and wanting to write off any sort of, fuck it, I'll say it, degenerate behavior done by my race was commonplace. I envisioned a future that was salvageable, whether it be by revolution, by a world leader, changing things, or by politics in general, leading us towards that place that made sense to me. Writing off my fears by telling myself it will be better someday only goes so far before you witness time after time firsthand how depraved the youth of this nation are. I cannot find it within myself to want to vote after witnessing all of this over the last few months. That video was the last straw for me. I cannot and will not support a sodomite-enabling candidate, nor will I be voting for any of my representatives or senators who have said hardly anything in regards to fixing the spiritual absence in the youth of today. I don't see a future for this generation, nor do I see a future for this country. Until fire, created from hell, heaven, or nukes, cleanses this nation, only then we will see the errors of our ways and change. Until then, we are on one hell of a train ride, and I believe it was you that I'm paraphrasing here. We are watching it crash at 1 billion frames per second in 720p high definition, our eyelids pried open, strapped down to the chair with the rest of our people. We can either unstrap ourselves off and choose to get off the train while convincing others to do the same, or ride it and die with the rest of the general populace. Thank you, Common Filth, for helping me see what my parents couldn't help me fully see. They're too pro-gay for me to agree with their views of true Christianity. You've been a very large inspiration on me over the last couple of years. And although I've faltered with sin as much as you probably have, I have come to better myself through the mistakes I've made and will attempt to walk in God's light accordingly. The money I've paid for your content cannot equal to the amount of wisdom that has been delivered through your podcasts and videos. You made me laugh, you've made me pissed off, you've made me crack an unnecessary joke or two in regards to your questionable ethnic background, and you've made me closer to God at the end of it all. Thank you, Common Filth, for all you've done. You've got the willpower of a saint, my friend. Please keep up the good work and stay vigilant in your duties. You shall know a tree by its fruit. We know this. It's not hard to understand. If you're not exposed in incremental steps, things that make you tough, things that make you resistant to disease, to harm, you're going to have a hard time keeping those diseases, those maladies at bay. Everybody thinks their sterile, suburban, and rural environments will save them, will keep them good. But your rural and suburban sterility turn you into a monster oblivious to its own sin that will pursue its carnal obsessions to the very extreme. Did you know that Ed Gein was from Wisconsin? Do you know who he is? Look him up. He too was treated like a sociology experiment. He too was a Midwesterner. The middle class dream is a nightmare. That email is just a sliver of proof of this assertion. How many stories have we read that directly mirror what we just talked about here? The middle class dream is a nightmare. Jeffrey Dahmer, also from Wisconsin. Would you believe that there are nerds out there already fantasizing about who the president will be in 2024? You know who they want the president to be? Peter Thiel. You know, I pointed out that you see this in a lot of love stories now, where you have a boy meets a girl and the guy, he just gets pushed around constantly by the girl. He gets taken for a ride. He gets romantically bullied. White men love it when women push them around. You know, the ones that are still interested in pair bonding, the ones still interested, the remaining few still interested in forming proper relationships with the opposite sex. So there's a number of people out there fantasizing about a Peter fucking Thiel presidency in 2024. So they want to be pushed around by a reprobate sodomite. What does that tell you? I hear a constant droning about high-trust societies. We have high-trust societies. White people have high IQs and high-trust societies. Yes, so high IQ, yet you can't resist a bad influence. You know, Jews make a lot of money off of pornography, but who invented it? Who invented filmic pornography as we know it? They ain't doing anything we didn't do first. But think about that. We want a high-trust society with lots of white people, led by anal predators, the most treacherous people you could possibly imagine. People who only value the carnal pursuits, who think feeling good is the same thing as being happy, that temporary tingles, small bursts of pleasure, law of diminishing returns apply to that, so they pursue really sick things until they're killing people, like Jeffrey Dahmer. High trust society. You want anal predators running it. And you wonder why they fail every time. You know, we need to stop calling it Western civilization. We need to start calling it Western domestication. That's all you are. The middle class dream is a nightmare. Veal wrapped in cotton balls. No conflict, no friction. Nothing. I remember when we were reading that ExoJane article, some number of episodes ago, about the girl who showed the single mom, by the way. Single mom showing her 5-year-old son Tinder. And using it as a lesson about consent. And I say we treat our children like they're a sociology experiment. So, with that in mind, here we go again. Russell Brand and Laura Gallagher named baby daughter Mabel, but plan to raise the tot gender neutral. The pair are hoping to raise the tot free of societal expectations of her assigned sex from birth. The 41-year-old former Shagger of the Year reportedly announced he'd become a dad for the first time at a stand-up show in Nottingham on Sunday night. One attendee named Daniel Cran told Mirror Celeb he didn't confirm if it was a girl or a boy. No. They got nothing down there. It's like a Ken doll. He was conscious of the clock and made sure he was off stage by just approaching 9 p.m. as he needed to get down the fucking M21 as my girlfriend has just had a baby. Daily Mail now reports that they have, and this is from the sun.co.uk, by the way. Daily Mail now reports that they have welcomed a little girl. No, not a girl. Gender neutral. Ken doll. Nothing down there. No hormones that are balanced one way or another. No chromosomes. Nothing. Can't assume. Don't assume, bro. Don't assume. Oh yeah. Should I mention where this comes from? Should I give that a hashtag stop Anglo people? Yeah. There you have it. During an interview on the Jonathan Ross show, he said, Jesus 3, I'm thinking of calling him or her. We don't know the gender. I may not even ever impose a gender upon it. Let the child grow up and be whatever the hell it is. Never tell it. There's such a concept. Sociology experiment. My child's a sociology experiment. No, I'm not going to give it the best chance given its genetic, biological circumstances. No, that doesn't inform you how you're going to treat people. No, not at all. No, we are completely separate from nature. Plug us into the machine. Turn us into human batteries, please, so we can live free of those expectations. We could create a character. Oh, we could have all sorts of customization. Life is like a video game. We want life to be like a video game. Do not assume we could be anything we want. No, we are not given a hand that we have to play. We're not given a set of circumstances that we have to learn to deal with, navigate, use it to our advantage. This week, I came across a documentary. It's called, I was looking for stuff to put in an AFK video, which is postponed, like most things are postponed now, for different reasons. This is some Brit trash, Anglo trash, Euro trash documentary. It's called, it's followed two girls, and the documentary was called From Girls to Men. And it follows these two deranged trannies who are like, oh boy. And they're, and in like the preview leading into the main documentary. And this the one girl who's a complete fucking tub of lard was like, I'm intersexed. Isn't that great? What, you're proud that you're a walking sack of genetic damage? That's a source of pride for you? Oh, that would explain the entire set of islands there, but my dirt low expectations are still apparently too high for people. Don't worry, I'm going to go after Germans next. I know, it's a bit of a new one. But we will. So there's Russell Brand, piece of shit. Isn't there a song by a future of the left where it says, like, where were you when Russell Brand invented fire? Let's go continent hopping. From CBSNews.com, family shared challenges, joys of transgender pregnancies. Guess the race. Guess the race. Guess the race. Darcy A. always knew he wanted to have a child biologically born female. Darcy came out as a lesbian at age 12. American culture. Encouraging young girls who probably not even hip. Wait, we have all these hormones in the milk and water causing early puberty. Yeah, I guess 12, and then they're like, oh, I'm feeling weird. I'm feeling different than I did yesterday. I must be a lesbian. It says a 12-year-old. So, lesbian at age 12, that was encouraged. And then as a transgender male at 18. Spending 6 years of queering off all throughout middle school and high school made you a little bit loony? Oh, perish the thought. I'm very surprised. I always knew that I would have a partner who did not have sperm and figured we would both carry children. Parasites! Scavengers! You're one step away from going door to door looking for angels to rape. In November 2014, after being inseminated with sperm from a donor. Okay, first of all, who's the piece of shit that would agree to this? Look what you're bringing into the world, Again, I don't have very high expectations. All I ask is, you don't do this kind of stuff. All I ask is that, you don't make an ass of yourself on camera by saying that you like pretty boys. Never mind. Look, we can't continue on like this. You can't pretend like it's the political system, it's the media that's to blame for all of this. This is happening. The ambient tones, the ambient noise of every day, the ambient noise that average people make, this is the noise they are making, all on their own. All on their own. Has fuck all to do with who holds the highest office in United States government. In November 2014, after being inseminated with sperm from a donor, Darcy, who asked that his last name not be used. Well, your picture's here. It won't be that hard to find you. Your picture's in a Facebook database somewhere. And look at these people. They think, like, this chick who's holding this poor baby. She's got the hat. I don't know what kind of hat it is. I don't wear hats. I don't know what they are. And she's got the septum piercing and the piercing that's between the lip and the chin. With the, are those plugs? Commonly those gauges in the earlobes. I can't tell, but there's some big thing in the earlobes. This is what this potato-faced fuckhead thinks is a man. It's looking like a New York performance artist who has AIDS. That's what being a man is all about. The pregnancy was hard, rattled with seemingly never-ending morning sickness and lots of pain. Boo-hoo. Adding to the difficulties, Darcy's healthcare providers weren't always equipped to handle the unique needs of a pregnant transgender man. Again, I have too high of expectations, and they need to go underground. Pregnant transgender man. The sentences that you read in this century, in this decade, in the present year. Oh, get this. So I'm going to read that again. I'm going to read it. I'm not going to interrupt. Adding to the difficulties, Darcy's healthcare providers weren't always equipped to handle the unique needs of a pregnant transgender man. They didn't use the right pronouns when addressing me, he said. They didn't know how to do pelvic exams on someone who had never had sex. Who had never had sex vaginally with a man, meaning nothing fits in there. Yeah, and you think you're gonna have a kid? You did. Thank you. Thank you for scavenging medical technology. You're siphoning off of medical technology that, enabled by research that took man hours that probably could have been used somewhere else. It would have served more noble purposes. I never had sex vaginally with a man, meaning nothing fits in there. Yeah, this is just abominable. Darcy's experience is all too common for transgender men who choose to have children, and it reflects widespread gaps in medical care for the transgender community as a whole. Well, yes, there is a medical gap in medical care because, medical service providers should be like, this is a horrible way of being. It's like refusing to tell somebody who's addicted to playing in raw sewage to stop playing in raw sewage. Terrible thing for your health. Like smoking, like playing in raw sewage, like, I don't know, sticking yourself with used hypodermic needles. Twists and turns. I didn't know I was going to be here in this episode, in this location, in this mindset. This is just, well, I've already said, that needs to be said. Research shows transgender people often postpone medical care due to discrimination or concern about how they'll be treated. Yeah, because there's a contradiction with how they need to be treated and how they want to be treated. You want the most, what you need the least. How many Americans fit that description? All of them. 99.9% of them. 99.8% of them. 99.7% of them. Concerned about how they'll be treated. Many say they've never needed to teach their healthcare providers about transgender care. Isn't that a contradiction? Some have even been refused treatment because of their transgender or gender nonconforming status. Yeah, because you are a chimera. You want to defy laws of medical science. You want to defy laws of nature. And that's what medical science deals with. Nature, ultimately. And how to work around it, how to fix it, how to put everything back into its right place. You are willingly displaced. And you're complaining that nobody knows how to deal with you. You chose this fate. Now you're bitching that society isn't as quick to accommodate your dysfunctions. It's getting there. And, nobody's going to stop it. Not at the federal level, not at the state level, not at the county level, not at the municipal level, not at the cultural level. Because nobody can judge anybody. That's what we think. We've turned Christianity into a pagan religion that's just like, oh, don't judge. Don't judge. That's all it means. Don't judge and be nice. It's interesting, all these white people saying, like, we're more suited to paganism. When they've turned it, every religion the white man has touched has turned to paganism. So they're saying that what has poisoned every religion is what's going to fix us. How does that work? Do we need to make like Odin and drink the jizz of some hanging victims? Is that what we need to do? Given like a lot of white, like that individual said, who was it? It's a battlefield trip. Some people have asked me even recently, why are you friends with the fucking white nationalists? Well, I knew them when they were social justice queers. There you have it, everybody. There you have it. So maybe they do think that is a viable solution. Themes of transgenderism are also woven throughout pagan mythology, Norse pagan mythology. So, yeah. Y'all are going to enjoy your decade of palliative care, your painless euthanasia. I'll give you a nice, healthy dose of barbiturates, and there you have it. It's like the 1980s to 1990s all over again when we won the Cold War. We lost the Cold War. It's like we lost the demographic war, but nobody seems to realize it. We didn't win the Cold War. We think we won it. But, all the communists in America came back out of hiding because the only lesson we learned from the Cold War was USA number one. USA number one. Let me cocoon with porn, alcohol, and football. Communists came back out of hiding, flooded high schools and universities. Who average white working class union slobs saw fit to care for their children so that they could have a better life than me. What, getting a little sweaty while you work is a bad life? You know, turning your kids into Marxist pieces of shit, that's a better life? The middle class dream is a nightmare. The middle class dream is a nightmare. The middle class dream is a nightmare. And now one slapdick yokel gets his nice cushy union job that he doesn't really want compared to the cam whoring he was doing just a month ago for, you know, Amazon wishlist shit, as you see in the MySpace Ankle Mark II video. He can send his daughter off to the same colleges with the same communists where her lesbian beast is more than encouraged to be unleashed. You know, there is a reason why there was a heavily anti-union sentiment in America, at least in some segments of the population for some time, because they saw what it was all about. People who got a nice living wage so that they could raise their families and give them a nice life, they saw what they were. Lazy fucks using union protections to get away with it. People will use the slack you give them every time. They're not just going to leave it there. They're going to take all that rope. They'll tangle themselves up in it, and eventually they'll hang themselves with it. Like studies on the true nature of the homosexual drug relapse rates, alcohol relapse rates, current research on it is hard to find because, well, the universities are staffed with drug addicts and homosexuals, and they don't want to face facts about who they really are. But I found this. Get this. It says relapse rates for addictive diseases usually are in the range of 50 to 90%. However, these rates vary by definition of relapse, severity of addiction, which drug of addiction, length of treatment, and elapsed time from treatment discharge to assessment, as well as other factors. And that bit of research comes from, not Monitoring the Future, Adolescent Illicit Drug Use, Understanding and Addressing the Problem. Well, or who are you to say that it's a problem? You can't assume that. That's judging. And Jesus 3:16 says, don't judge. And the other chapter of the book of Jesus says, be nice. There's no such thing as a casual heroin user. Well, if they only use a little bit, so it doesn't meet our threshold, our definition of what heroin is. 50 to 90%. Relapse. Let's assume that the most generous estimate of success is the correct one there. 50%. Now, I know in this day and age there are a lot of jobs where you can get away with fucking up half the time, but, well, in most honest professions, you can't afford that kind of margin of error. You go to school to study addiction medicine, you open up your own firm, you have your little house of junkies, you maybe get a show about celebrities who are junkies, and you fail half the time. Over the long term, you probably fail 90% of the time. Why are you not out on the streets, homeless, for selling the snake oil you sell? Is it because we're a self-medicating culture? We seek to avoid the pain we inflict upon ourselves that we deserve by smoking up, shooting up, snorting, swallowing a pill. Dude, weed. Universal weed care will be a legitimate political platform in our lifetime. It cured my glaucoma. I have anxiety. Yeah, I wonder why. Weed's not addictive. I could quit anytime I want. Okay, quit now. Well, I don't want to quit now. This one kind of got memory hold on me. It says, transgender veterans truck painted Trump and set on fire. No, you did that yourself. You think he doesn't pay sufficient enough tribute even though he does. He knows full well what you people are. His mentor, Roy Cohn, was a pederast, a homosexual pederast, and Trump was like, yeah, that's cool. He's friends with Jeffrey Epstein. He's like, yeah, that's cool. So what if he likes young girls? So what? He's a good guy. Anyway, I've talked about this before, but it bears repeating. EU poll finds a surprising number of young people want to try gay sex. Imagine my complete and utter shock. Hundreds of thousands of young Europeans have taken part in a European Union-wide poll, and it's found a lot more are open to gay sex than you might have expected. Get this. 577,650 answers. That's a lot of people. 1 in 5 says, and I love how they frame this question. Isn't it fantastic? Have you ever made love with someone of the same sex? Look at the Eurotrash definition of love and how we all follow it. There's your culture. And there is the case as to why your culture deserves complete extinction. 1 in 5 says, no, but I'd like to try. 9% said yes, and I like it. 5% say, yes, but I wouldn't do it. So combine that 9% who say, yes, I like getting sodomized, and 19% who say that, no, but I would like to try getting sodomized. 19 plus 9 equals 28. That is 1 in 4. It's a little bit more than 1 in 4, but we go with 1 in 4. 1 in 4. 1 in 4 Europeans. A dying failure race, a dying failure continent. Who want to try and who love dying failure sexual activity. What best represents the death of the human species, what best represents a complete lack of will to live. 1 out of 4 Europeans. There you have it. Lots of people think I'm a fan of ISIS, which is not true, but they're fighting for a higher purpose. We're fighting for, well, this. It's here in America, too. And now we go to Germany, as I said earlier, because, yeah, Anglos are bad, but are Germans worse? You decide. Incest a fundamental right, German committee says. Anti-incest laws in Germany could be scrapped after a government-backed group said relationships between brothers and sisters should be legal. Oh, hey, well, we got permission from the government. Hey, that means it's good. That means it's cool. Well, we're the only people that need permission. We're like, oh, wow, we have permission to do that? Let's do it now. And now I need to find this. Somebody sent, oh, here we go. 15-year-old girl can have a sexual relationship with 47-year-old uncle. German court rules. The relationship, okay, this is a quote from the judge. Quote, the relationship may be socially undesirable and unacceptable, but it is not covered by criminal law and not categorically forbidden, unquote. Says the judge. That was from, see, this incest is a fundamental right. German committee says that was in September 2014. The 15-year-old girl can have sexual relationship with 47-year-old uncle. That came November 2016. From the Telegraph. Let's see if there are any juicy bits in the main body of the article. Teenager named only as Josephine due to German privacy laws. I really find the priorities here. I don't know what I find. Teenager named only as Josephine due to Germany privacy laws made headlines when she ran away with her uncle at age 14. When the couple was discovered in France by police. And where's ISIS? They're crawling all over France. It's like poetry. It really is. God is sovereign over all. Josephine said she had chosen to run away and was in love with the older man who was her uncle by marriage. Okay. Oh, so it's not polluting the gene pool, even though, a German committee recommended that it be made legal. Weren't they recommending that in Sweden too? Hey, it's just the globalists. That's the problem. Globalists made you lust after your own niece. I just remembered, didn't the Canadian Supreme Court effectively render bestiality legal in Canada. All right, back to the German incest programming. Josephine's parents reportedly sought a court order to prevent her from being in contact with her uncle on the grounds that it put her welfare at risk. But the teenager challenged the order and won, with the court ruling that at 14, her own wishes must be taken into account, according to the Telegraph. Yep, that's empowerment right there. Getting pumped and dumped by your uncle in France. We're in love. We're in love. Hey, does that not strike you as incredibly predatory? 47 years old, 14-year-old. 47-year-old. Okay, so he was 46 at the time. Wow, what a difference. 46-year-old, 14-year-old. That doesn't strike you as odd? No, not in Europe, where the age of consent is low, and the standards are even lower. After all, we wouldn't want a purity spiral, now would we? Hey, look, I know this creep, he's fucking his 15-year-old niece, but he really does a lot for us because reasons. You know, they're gonna have white babies, maybe, possibly. Oh, they're doing anal? Oh, well, look, that's the European way. That's a part of their culture, and, you know, we need to preserve German culture. Oh, what's this? Trump's statement on banning Muslims disappears from his website. Oh, good. He's taking a stand against purity spiraling. That's good. According to the Telegraph, the judges wrote in the ruling, the court does not offer any opinion on the non-judicial question of whether a 47-year-old married man should return the love of a 14-year-old fired by adolescent affection and enthusiasm. The relationship may be socially undesirable and unacceptable, but it is not covered by criminal law and not categorically forbidden. The age of consent in Germany is 14, as is the case with several other European countries. I really hope you take that information and use it to further the skepticism of homosexual white nationalists and where their priorities are, because their priority might be connected with that very low age of consent. Oh, white priorities here in the comments. It says, the decision of the court seems very reasonable to me. And no, this man is not her uncle. He is her uncle by marriage, which is quite a different thing. There is no blood relation and no genetic danger. Oh no, the genetic danger already happened. As by virtue of their very existence. So, yeah, then nobody finds it a little strange that a 14-year-old runs away with a 46-year-old guy. Nope, not at all. There's nothing wrong there. Stop judging. Jesus 3:16 says, yeah. Well, this is late breaking here. This is being sent to me by pretty much everybody right now. From 1peter5.com, Pope, it is the communists who think like Christians. What a great time to plug my stickers at commonfilthradio.bandcamp.com/merch. You could show the world what you think of the Pope with a $2 Communist Pope sticker. International shipping is available. During this week where Americans have been distracted by the unexpected upset of a presidential election that could very well change the course of our collective future, no it won't, Pope Francis has been busy making political statements of his own. In yet another interview with Eugenio Scalfari, see our standard rebuttal to You Can't Trust Scalfari here, this exchange was reported to have taken place. He told me some time ago that the precept, love your neighbor as thyself, had to change given the dark times that we are going through and become more than thyself. So you yearn for a society where equality dominates. This, as you know, is the program of Marxist socialism, and then of communism. Are you therefore thinking of a Marxist type of society? It has been said many times, and my response has always been that, if anything, it is the communists who think like Christians. There you have it. Not my opinion, just a fact. There you have it. There you have it. There you have it. And there's a picture in this article of the Pope smiling at Jesus crucified on the hammer portion of a hammer encycle, which, as you know, is the symbol for communism. Think about how Christ lived. He had mercy on those who were at his mercy, and he spoke truth to power. Not two traits that come to mind when thinking of communists. And we've reached a conclusion in this story we've been following for over the last couple of weeks about British YouTube star Callum McSwiggan. Now, he allegedly faked a crime, a hate crime, because he's a sodomite, and he needed some victim points. He needed to farm some more content, and what better way than to admit yourself to a hospital after faking your own assault. So, again, YouTube star Callum McSwiggan, a sodomite sentenced for vandalism after faking a hate crime injury. And we want to unite as a people on this basis. Our love of these people who make everything about themselves, who are left alone, yet that's never good enough for them, because they think they're better than you. A British YouTube star pleaded guilty to vandalism before a U.S. court after claiming he was assaulted in Los Angeles. Callum McSwiggan, 26, was sentenced to 3 years of supervised probation, and 52 anger management sessions after he vandalized the car of a man he claimed had attacked him in West Hollywood. So he vandalized somebody else's property. McSwiggan, who is from London, Anglos. Oh, bruv, you're not being homophobic. That's homophobic. You gotta go to jail. Oh, no, I'm going to jail now. Oi, you're putting me in jail. That's homophobic. You gotta go to jail now. Except you didn't. 3 years of supervised probation and 52 anger management sessions. Yeah, sane people. These people spend an incredible amount of energy putting up appearances. Like, oh, I'm just like you, I just have a different preference. And occasionally, well, not occasionally, if you're looking for it, you see that their facade is, it's hard to maintain, which is why they can't maintain it 24/7. And here you have it. They're shit disturbers, always have been, always will be. And these are shit disturbers who are of no tangible benefit, and people want them to run the country. The eternal homophile that is the white man. I just remembered something a couple days ago. I told a World War II vet that he basically fought for no good reason. I said that FDR knew that Pearl Harbor was coming. He let it happen. This was towards the end of the semester. The guy was a professor. I don't know why. It's like, when I start something, I'm very careful. I'm very considerate. I'm very careful to cross my T's and dot my I's. But as things progress, as I get deeper into whatever it is, I don't really care anymore. I get comfortable and I don't like the feeling. So I create the discomfort. So I guess I get annoyed at people's apathy, at people's decadence. Because they like their comfort and then they hold on to it. Look, I like being comfortable too, but there's something about me. Something about me says, escape it. It's bad for you. Over the long term, it's bad for you. I guess that's why I'm hard on people. People who would be a potential audience. But then again, your average yokel now, your average hick, really behaves like the black person like 20 years ago. Except that hicks now are more of a mind to pay tribute to their leftist overlords. But they're vapid and debauched all the same. Look at what they listen to. Take a gander at the modern pop country music charts. You'll see what I'm talking about. Common Filth Radio, best in the world. Let's see what you have to say. Hey, CF, you talk a lot about how paused the UK is. But I think that you can't actually grasp how firmly entrenched the idolization of sodomy truly is in this country unless you actually live here. Actually live here. I go to a sixth form college in the northwest of England, and I felt I should share my experiences. These are my favorite kinds of submissions. So please, everybody, all around the world, share your stories. If you see just a little bit of what I'm talking about in the world in which you live, share it with me. And just like you did here. First of all, there's homosexual propaganda everywhere. And I truly mean everywhere. It's impossible to walk down a corridor in any of the buildings on campus without seeing at least one poster bearing a condescending message like, "Some people are gay, get over it," which I believe is a preview of Donald Trump's 2020 campaign slogan. Although the college is supposed to be mainly science and technology based, there's a mandatory ethics and values class once a week. It turns out that the class is essentially a platform for the fat fuck of a teacher to grandstand and go on long political rants. For whatever reason, he likes to talk about US politics whenever he gets a chance, despite us being on the other side of the Atlantic. If you want an example of what this guy's like, he insists on calling the founding fathers the founding framers, as the word fathers is apparently sexist and patriarchal. Yeah, they weren't men. We don't know if they're men because maybe they identified as like something else. Who knows what they identified as? And after all, it's what you identify as. You know, a white person is behaving in a less than favorable way. You're like, well, they're not really white because they don't identify as it. You know how many times I've heard that over the past few months? It's tranny logic. He also said that he thinks people who want to dismantle the NHS are nutcases and need to be removed from society. Oi, bruv, you won't pay for my medication, you gotta go to jail, mate. The worst part is that the students almost always unanimously agree with him. Yeah, because their grades depend on it. And they think like, oh, I get an A, that means I'm right, I'm correct. Therefore, these opinions that I'm echoing, they're the correct ones after all. They're the ones giving me the grade. This is how it works. And this is why the middle class dream is a nightmare, because whatever's going to happen in the next decade, it will continue on just the same. People are going to use their factory jobs, their stupid fucking union jobs, to send their kids off to college so that they could have a better life than I did. Even though you think fucking factory jobs are a pretty good life, so why isn't it good for them? And on it goes, where their kids will learn to be lesbians, they'll learn to be LGBT allies, and the culture will continue to promote that. That's what we really value here. Like anybody with a trace of European DNA, they're predisposed to valuing just that. The laws of these nations reflect that. The cultures of these nations reflect that. Millions upon millions of people go to gay pride parades every summer. It's an integral part of our culture. We've made it that way because, well, we identify with it for God knows what reason. Actually, it's not just God, it's pretty much everybody with two brain cells to rub together. The middle class dream is a nightmare. As society lost its ability to act, social life and culture trod the road to decadence. Those addicted to drugs, alcohol, sexual promiscuity, and mysticism multiplied. There have been so many times where I wanted to speak up, but I knew I'd be shouted down by everyone in the room. Don't even get me started on the students themselves. Some of them look like they come straight from a Tumbleristas Irvine Marathon episode. But do you want to know the real kicker? This is a Catholic college. Good job, church that, whoever founded. This is what it's become. Communists and, well, you know the second part of that. It has a chaplaincy, crucifixes, and quotes from the New Testament on the walls, even fucking mass. And yet it actively promotes same-sex marriage, abortion, etc. Again, this is an institution which claims to profess the teachings of the church, and yet it encourages the acceptance of sin virtually to the point of fanaticism. Not the main point of my post, but I felt it was something worth mentioning. Well, you could report that to somebody. Like, I don't know how the hierarchy of the Catholic Church works, but I'm sure you could snitch on them to somebody. All I want to know is, what do I do? The qualifications I'm doing, physics and engineering, are fine, but everyone here is cucked to the point where I don't feel like I can connect with them without pretending to be someone I'm not. Well, you don't have to be. You could say, fuck off. Fuck off, you poof. I don't like you. You know, I think you Brits are straight shooters despite your flaws. You could do that. Quit trying to connect with people. You don't want to unify with something that is sick. You know, in order for there to be unity, there needs to be a common denominator, and it's typically very, 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 very low. And you don't want to be a part of that. You don't want to be a part of that at all. I don't want to compromise on my principles, but I worry that if I don't, then I'll end up having a lonely college experience. Should you make friends with progressives if they're seemingly the only choice you have? Thanks. No. You're never going to talk to these people again, regardless of whether you play nice or not. Do not make this adversarial environment something you want to look back on fondly. Do not do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't even look at the rose-colored glasses you might buy and look at the world through. Look at the past through. Nostalgia, no, don't be nostalgic for anything. Pause, bless, Rabbi Filth. I wanted to share this link with you. The fear of relapsing back into theism from r/atheism. Note, I was only on that subreddit because I was making a screen cap joke, but I saw this and clicked on it. Well, it doesn't matter why you're on there. It's like, I don't need to know your intentions. They're pretty clear by the fact that you're commenting here. This is actually pretty sad. It's basically some kid saying how he fears relapsing into faith when he's obviously deeply depressed and disturbed, even planning his own suicide. Yeah, that's isolation and alienation from the one who made you. Yeah, that would cause some depression. That would cause some fear. That would cause some disturbing. He's even planning his own suicide. It's almost as if a voice is calling for him, but he's ignoring the sign because of his atheistic rebellion against his parents. And now we see how dangerous pride is. Yeah, he's too prideful to admit, yeah, this atheism stuff, it's taken me nowhere. I don't really have anything to say about this, but this reminded me of the sort of thing you talk about all the time. The rebellious child rejecting a God that is so clearly calling for them in their darkest hour. Peace out, muchacho. A lot of people make the accusation like, oh, Christianity is bad for us because it's not pagan. Yeah, we made it that way. And which is the exact reason why we're calling it bad now. We're calling it ineffective now. And you know, it's a half-truth. Yeah, it is ineffective. The church is completely toothless and ineffective. But it's of their own doing. What you see here is a child embracing atheism because the gods of his own creation have failed him time and time again, and they always will. Because he has not made the one true God his God. Which is why he's gone to atheism. Now he's realizing that's wrong. He's made atheism into his God, and it's letting him down. He's too prideful to admit it. And we live in a culture that's too craven to say to this child, yeah, it's not working out for you. It works out for nobody. And you have so many lost souls because of it. Comment down here, reply that to your comment here says, atheism is a disease. Atheism is a disease. Dear CF, long-time listener here. I've been listening to the show for over a year now, and I wondered about this. If you think I'm wrong about anything here, let me know. This isn't trying to be a gotcha email or anything like that, but I'm wondering why you don't speak more on sexual issues among heterosexuals. You're keen to tackle issues like faggotry, lesbianism, sodomy, pedophilia, and things which seem obvious to a regular listener like me. However, you generally don't seem to comment much on the fact that almost all heterosexuals and even most Christian heteros, and even many of your listeners, or at least it seems to me, do not find a problem with fornication, and looking at statistics, almost none wait until marriage for sex. You've obviously said that slutting is bad, but God commands Christians to absolutely wait until marriage. Many of my Christian friends from my high school church are now in sexual relationships with their girlfriends who they mostly met at the same church. Personally, I am a virgin, although not a pure virgin, because I've had some experiences in my past which I now regret. Tears me up inside seeing so many Christians straying off the path, and the ultimate reason is that they just want their cummies. Meanwhile, I've kept myself relatively clean, and I feel like I have no reward to show for it. I have no girlfriend, and I've also never had sex. Well, it's not a reward. If you're looking at it as like a transactional achievement kind of thing, then it's not going to work out for you. I don't think sex and cummies are the most important thing in the world, but I'm almost 20 and I've stayed celibate much longer than was natural for young men in the past. Most men my age would be married right now. 100 years ago, and sex would be a non-issue. I don't want to get married simply for sex, of course. I really want a family and children, and to raise them better than my parents did me. It just seems that no women are staying abstinent, and I don't want to marry damaged goods. I read the facts, and I know how those marriages turn out. My parents' marriage was one of them. I know I've kind of strayed from what I wanted to ask, but mainly I'm looking for guidance on this. Thanks for taking your time to read, and sorry for the long message. What you're talking about here is a relatively milder form of sin. Nothing good is born of sodomy. Two young star-crossed lovers, they're impulsive, and they do something and they end up pregnant, and that snaps it back into focus with them. A baby comes from that, and a baby is a good thing if they keep it a good thing. If they're like, oh damn, we brought a child in this world, we better stick together, we better start doing the right things for the right reasons. In a situation like this, which has happened a lot, they have strayed from the path, but the path has never left their sight. They can easily return to it if they are humble enough to do so. They're humble enough to admit their mistake, reconcile it, and move on from there. What you're addressing here is something that is immoral, but it assumes a morality in the first place, whereas sodomy is amoral. It acknowledges no right or wrong. What you're talking about here, heterosexual activity being used in an incorrect manner, it acknowledges that a fully developed man and a fully developed woman acting as they naturally do with one another, that is the moral basis. That is what defines the right and the wrong, because there is a functional premise from which it operates. Whereas a sodomite and their activity, it acknowledges no functional premise. It's all chaotic, it's all a free-for-all, and it's all an abomination. And that is why I focus on what I focus on. I focus on all amoral behavior and why we need to cut it out. Shaking my head, CF episode 113, so good it had to come back for an encore. Yeah, I think is one of my it's a top 5 episode for sure. It's your flat water friend back again for more banter. Oi, bruv. This week is more serious but far less lengthy. I've been trying to find a church to start off with in my town. I've never really been religious, and the best option seems to be a small Orthodox one nearby. Every time I listen to your show, someone is always talking about forms of corruption and whatnot within different groups of Christian and beyond each time. Is there any way to sift through everything and find a good place to be? Well, you have to check it out for yourself and use your God-given intuition to figure out if the people belonging to whatever church you're thinking about joining are doing decent things or are living according to the law. This is something you have to find out for yourself. It is something you have to witness firsthand. There's no technique that I could tell you. Just Are they following the Bible? Are they unapologetically looking at what Scripture says and not making any excuses for it? Or not perverting what it says? These are things you have to look at. P.S. One of the weirdest things Pally was interested in was British Israelism, which, although is pretty out there and crazy, would make for a very funny addition to your arguments with sodomites. Let's just say them of the world would get pretty ass mad if this was interjected into their circle jerk about my British Empire and how Jews made me do it. British Israelism. It's basically on the same level of evidence as all that we was kangs stuff, but it would still be very useful in pissing people off. Oi, bruv, we was monarchs. This would make for a good segment of Common Filth Radio or Common Filth Extra. So British Israelism. Yeah. Is it Israelism or Israelism? Anglo-Israelism is a doctrine based on the hypothesis that the people of Western European and Northern European descent are the direct lineal descendants of the 10 lost tribes of the ancient Israelites, particularly in Great Britain. The doctrine often includes the tenet that the British royal family is directly descended from the line of King David. The movement never had a head organization or a centralized structure. Well, this is embarrassing. Israel and Britain. A brief statement of the evidences in proof of the Israeli origin of the British race. That's embarrassing, but funny. No ecosexuals, Mother Nature. Wait, what? What's this? Okay. Oh, another game against the race. Yeah, we talked about ecosexuals before. This is from thefederalist.com. No, ecosexuals, Mother Nature does not want to have sex with you. And here are two lesbos licking a tree. That's just great. Makes me proud. My proud race. Yeah, I talked about the ecosexual thing a number of months back. It's embarrassing. And hopefully it dies a quiet death. It just remains a footnote that we could look back on and say, hey, wasn't that ridiculous? But who knows? I'm not optimistic. You think the Earth is going to impregnate you or something? Is the Earth a reproducing organism? You morons. Can't be sexual if you can't reproduce with it. Hey, filthy nigga, you taking your Alex Jones supplements? You gotta take them if you want to beat the globalists. Well, I am well rested and I am ready to fight the globalists at any turn. I'm even ready to fight the universalists. That's right, I'm ignoring alien orders, just like I ignore sodomite orders. God willed it. Trump might be a godless heathen, but the shackles of Serbia have fallen. The shackles of all Eastern countries have been cracked with the single swing of a giant hammer of fate. The devil lost. She said, there's no more room for homogenous Christian nations on earth when she was bombing my nation. And now God bestowed his rage upon her. God is a Serb and he will watch over us. God helps. God bless you. CF. God will still punish Americans for enabling the Clintons the whole time. So, and she would have been a great punishment, but apparently God didn't see it that way. So who am I to question it? I'm nobody to question it. God bless you as well. Hey, CF, been watching since episode 100. Hey, welcome aboard. You've been here not too long. Did you make this song? Oh, it's your first comment. Did you make this song? The song is called Kill All the Gays. No, I didn't. I don't advocate that because the last thing you want to do is make these people into martyrs. Like, we're oppressed. Give us more stuff. Look, the streets are running red with our, you know where I'm going with that. No, I didn't write that. I don't advocate for that. Don't make people into the victims they so desire to be. Hey, see, if I had an argument with my friend on the bus and he brought up at some point that homosexuality is not wrong. I said no, that it isn't, and he brought up that not all argument and mentioned his gay uncle marrying his other gay uncle and how they didn't have sex and how they were normal when he visited them. What kind of retard is your friend? They're normal? Fucking two dudes who feed each other their cum are normal? This is the problem. We look at the symbols and we start worshiping the symbols rather than what they represent. These two guys living with each other for the sole purpose that they have an easy cum fountain to access. That's how they treat their fellow man. That's what their relationship represents. Their complete antipathy towards their fellow man. Friends don't feed each other their cum. Doesn't happen. But they're nice. That's, again, we're natural pagans, so people are right about that. And the new, one of our various pagan religions is homophilia. We just see, they look nice, they're nice to me, therefore they're cool. No, doesn't work that way. Friends don't feed each other their cum. I told him most homosexuals are pedophile, and he replied with, straight people are mostly pedophiles. We argued more and more. I showed him a screenshot of a Twitter poll called, How young would you go to pause a guy by approved on Twitter named... Yeah, we know about that one. I showed him... Didn't I show you that in Tumblr Uses Raw Volume 4? Isn't that where that came from? The results were 36% for 18, 4% for 13, 13% for 16, and the most truth-revealing thing, 47 for under 16. I showed him this information, but he went again with not all argument. Well, yeah, there you go. And then you say, yeah, you're right, not all, most. The argument, you got to agree and amplify. Jesus gave the first agree and amplify, as I talked about on a Common Filth Extra episode 43. Fantastic episode, by the way, check it out. Yeah, agree and amplify. It isn't all, it's most. The argument went on and on, and we stopped when I reached my stop. I got off and left and went home and felt the need to show him the truth. CF, how can I show my friend the error of his ways and show him the truth like you've shown to me? What is your advice? You've done it. You've done all you could do. It's up to him to accept it or reject it, and he rejects it. And you know what? Maybe that's not somebody you need in your life. Mad greets CF. I read the book Pimp by Iceberg Slim because you recommended it. Yes, fantastic book. Though the author is an unrepentant psychopath, the book takes a painfully honest look at what sex worship and greed do to people. It also shows you what child abuse does to people because he was a victim of some pretty severe child abuse. There was one point where the author said he was tested with this 175 IQ, and I believed it based on what a powerful writer he is, but he used his brain power for evil. A lesson white nationalists need to learn while they currently tolerate disgusting and degenerate sexual practices. Yeah, one of their favorite people right now is a porn star who's like a Frenchie whore who does porn. But she wears Waffenheits and says edgy things. And they buy it. They're so stupid. But yeah, Pimp by Iceberg Slim, he's a brilliant guy. And look what he did with his life, because he hated his mom for what his mom did to him. And so he took it out on the women of the world. That's what I gathered from it. That's what he suggested, why he did what he did. The guy got full ride scholarship to school, to college, if I'm remembering it correctly. It's been a while since I listened to the audiobook version of it, but I do remember that detail, that he was incredibly smart, went to college, and he's like, nah, I'll be a pimp instead. I should do a show or a segment about Pimp by Iceberg Slim. It is really a fantastic book. It got me to remember that while IQ may have a correlation with financial success, number of inventions, cohesiveness in a group, etc., it doesn't stop you from committing acts of animalistic brutality. Yeah, it doesn't. And in fact, a high IQ better facilitates that, because you can figure out how to get away with it. We really should just rename IQ points RQ. We should rename IQ RQ. It's a rationalization. That's all it is. It's just rationalization, your capacity to rationalize your depraved, horrible, sinful behavior. I'm going to have my kids read Pimp as a warning when they're old enough to have communist faggots start trying to pause them. Thank you for fighting against evil. That's actually not a bad idea. But see, like, you think these people are cool? Nah, they're not cool. They live horrible, debauched, unhinged lives. It's a fate you want to avoid. Next. The whole article on Moscow Pride is hilarious, but this section in particular I think you might enjoy. CF. This is from Wikipedia about Moscow Pride. Yuri Luzkov, who was mayor of Moscow until being dismissed in September 2010, consistently opposed gay parades in the capital for a variety of reasons. In 2007, he attracted international attention when he said of the 2006 parade, "Last year, Moscow came under the unprecedented pressure to sanction the gay parade." Yeah, there you have it. Unprecedented pressure, international attention. Ignore sodomite orders. They want everybody to capitulate to it, and everybody is, except for very few. So, he said last year Moscow came under unprecedented pressure to sanction the gay parade, which cannot be called anything other than satanic. We did not let the parade take place then, and we are not going to allow it in the future. I approve. He blamed groups which he accused of receiving grants from the West of spreading what he called this kind of enlightenment. What a guy. Yeah, and this is why we've already waged war on Russia. We allow organizations like Fuck Hate to distribute pro-sodomite propaganda within their borders. We allow them to do it. We're like, yeah, do it. It's fine. We don't prevent them. We allow these corporations, which are an extension of the nation. Corporations derive their power from the state. We allow them. They're committing an act of war on the behalf of the state. Whatever happens to us after that is well deserved. We think that destructive sects of propaganda of same-sex love are inadmissible, he said of attempts to promote gay rights in Russia. He also thanked Alexei II, the then head of the Russian Orthodox Church, for backing him banning the 2006 parade. In response, Moscow Pride organizers sued him for slander. Nikolai Bayev and Nikolai Alexeyev sought a retraction of the statement that the parade was satanic and demanded 2,000 rubles in damages. The suit was heard by the Moscow City Court, in which found in favor of Luzkov on the 11th of October. It decided that Luzkov had not attacked the plaintiffs personally, but only the gay pride parade in general, and also concurred that Luzkov was expressing a personal opinion. The organizers plan to appeal to the European Court of Human Rights. Fuck off. At an international AIDS conference in Moscow in 2008, Luzkov said he would persist in banning gay pride parades in order to prevent the spread of HIV and AIDS. Logical. He commented, "We have banned and will continue to forbid this propaganda by sexual minorities, as they could turn out to be one of the factors in the spread of HIV infections," correct. Certain homegrown Democrats believe that sexual minorities can be a primary indicator and symbol of democracy, but we will forbid the dissemination of these opinions in the future as well. What a great guy. I approve. I make videos for this guy. Is he still alive? Yeah, he's still alive. CF, last episode, you've got some info about the Franklin cover-up, so here's a site covering a similar case. The Dutroux affair in Europe. It's very long, so you probably want to go over it later. These events, plus the latest allegations in the Podesta emails, really makes me wonder if the filth trickles down or up in the societal pyramid. It goes both ways. It goes both ways indeed. I've bookmarked the page, so. Have I locked this thread, by the way? I don't want anybody, Alright, locked. Anyway. Yeah, I'll do a little bit about the Franklin cover-up, and the Dutroux affair. I don't know, maybe I'll get killed for talking about it. It's hard to say. Anyway. Filth, you're doing God's work. If only you could count past 113. Yeah. I accidentally, for the question and comment thread this week, I didn't say it was 114. I said it was 113 still, so. My mistake. I don't have any hard-hitting questions this time, but I reckon you could do a killer Patrick Warburton voice. Keep it fresh, my realist OG. I don't know if my voice is deep enough to do an impression of him. But, yeah, guys got a good voice. Thanks for the show, a listener. P.S. Next food review. When, I don't know. I mean, I'm not some gourmet. I'm not a food snob or anything. But I guess you don't have to be. I guess the YouTube food review game requires some pretty, mainstream taste. Hello, man who is common with the filth. In some recent Chinese news, China has passed a law that bans internet users from publishing a wide variety of information, including anything that damages national honor, disturbs economic or social order, or is aimed at overthrowing the socialist system. I'll put a link to the article below if you want to read it further. China has been quite popular with its strict internet access, even so that all forms of internet pornography are illegal. Internet pornography in that country has been made into an extremely rare commodity, while in this country it's as easy to find as typing one word into Google. This made me ask the question, where's the decadence in China? There's absolutely no sign that I've heard from China in terms of the gay community or the LGBT community. Yeah, because any traces of it are stamped out pretty quickly, without much fanfare. They're like, yeah, all right, we got it done, let's move on. Because it's there, it's everywhere, but, it's just a matter of how we treat it. In Europe and in America and wherever you speak English, we think it's the best thing you could possibly be. We encourage our kids to be homosexuals. We encourage our kids to try out sodomy. That's what we do because that's what we think is the best thing to be. Because we think freedom is the best. And what's freedom? Oh, it's the pursuit of cum. And who does that the best? Oh, they do. We got to be like them. And there you have it. Not saying that it doesn't exist or anything, but I'm very highly convinced that it is much lower than what it is here in America. Again, I've gone over the numbers before. Once you factor in certain mentalities and mindsets amongst each group of people, it's pretty much the same wherever you go. So the only difference is how you treat it. Because whatever discrepancy there is between whites and others in their rates of homosexuality, which, are on the uptick, 1 in 5 fucking Euro trash want to suck some dick. Everywhere you go, it's pretty much the same. And whatever benefit that white people being, ostensibly less gay than other groups has is completely mitigated by the fact that we promote it most heavily. Do you think we should follow in China's footsteps? It's a pretty simple solution to a major issue that we do have here in America. On top of that, how likely do you think it could come? It'll only be for so long of elementary kids continuing to watch porn that someone takes a stand to restrict most sites on the internet anyway. Well, here's the problem with that. You see that China passed a law saying, you can't say anything bad about the state or the interests of the state on the internet. Now, if we did something like that, saying anything against the sodomite would be verboten because our state promotes that. Our state is sodomite orders exemplified. We live in a sodomitic police state. That's what it is. It's not an opinion, it's a fact. Where do you think Big the Cake Bigot came from? So for that purpose, I have to oppose it because the Chinese government, they have no interest in that. They have no interest in promoting that. So you could say, you could speak out against it within their system. But within our system, given the same law, no, you couldn't. Next. Have you ever seen Yuri Bezmenov's videos? If yes, do you think the things he says are accurate? No, I haven't. What are they, though? This one says, deception was my job, complete. Oh, this guy. He's a former KGB agent. Psychological warfare, subversion, and control of Western society. Yeah, I have heard of this guy's name or somebody who does something similar to what he does. And yeah, I'll have to rewatch it to remind myself. As clever and funny people think dead kike on a stick is, I think my own twist on such a tired phrase is a bit better. Feel free to use bread bike on a spick as a much more humorous and a more nonsensical version of such a retarded phrase that is quite disrespectful to our Lord and Savior. And I notice it's only white people who say stuff like that. Well, yeah, I should really align myself with white America. They disparage the God I believe in, and they're on my team, I'm on their team. Fuck you. I'm not uniting with you. On to the next question, though. Should homosexuals be considered as biological weapons? For an example, if an opposing country sent in like 10 sodomites to a country, wouldn't they do like irrevocable damage to said country? No, they should be considered a social weapon. After all, we talked about fuck hate and how they sent gay coloring books to Russia during their the Winter Olympics back in 2014. That's an act of social, cultural warfare. That is an act of war. That's an act of war. So not necessarily biological weapons, because they're only a biological weapon if you're exposing yourself to them in the only way that you could be harmed in that way by them. But as a social weapon, they affect everybody. And that's what we should be worried about. The Catholic Herald reports the Pope has proposed 6 new beatitudes for modern Christians. Copy pasta follows. Well, is the Catholic Herald a legitimate publication? Okay, so it appears to be. Anyway, it says, blessed are those who remain faithful while enduring evils inflicted on them by others and forgive them from their heart. Blessed are those who look into the eyes of the abandoned and marginalized and show them their closeness. Blessed are those who see God in every person and strive to make others also discover him. Blessed are those who protect and care for our common home. Blessed are those who renounce their own comfort in order to help others. Blessed are those who pray and work for full communion between Christians. Well, what if that evil is a product of religious persecution by people who hate God? God said nothing about forgiving his enemies. Is there precedent for any precedent to scriptural revisionism of this kind? I haven't heard of anything similar before. Well, yeah, I mean, going out of your way to help others is fine. All right, that's not what I take issue with, but that first thing tells you all you need to know about where he's coming from. You're not supposed to forgive God's enemies, and God has many enemies. ACF, maybe Trump is not all that bad. Archive.is 6 lowercase OAL uppercase Q from Pink News. Trump will roll back Obama's LGBT rights protections, Mike Pence confirms. President Obama signed an executive order outlawing discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity among federal contractors. Earlier this year, his administration followed up with guidance to schools urging them not to discriminate against transgender students. Here's the problem. Last week, as documented by Public Health Watch, rest in peace, the Public Health Watch subreddit, every "I came out as gay because of Trump" post gets 5,000 upvotes on r/TheDonald. Already, right there, Trump has unleashed more homo demons upon the world than Obama ever did in 8 years of his reign. The white man is the eternal homophile. He worships death. So, big deal. A Trump administration would roll back protections against them that gum up the legal works with nonsense. I was fired not because I was a creepy sex predator, but because I'm a homo, and that's discrimination. Yeah, fuck that. But that's a drop in the bucket. And what does Pence know? He capitulated on that religious freedom bullshit bill. Oh, I'm sorry. It's not actually what you think. Yeah, I remember that shit. Pussy. And plus, vice president is the most worthless, meaningless position in government. Anyway, I know you didn't like either candidate, but did you vote? I'm sorry if this is an intrusion of your privacy, but I always wondered if you were a voter. As someone from the UK, I refuse to vote. We have no good political parties. I don't vote because I live in California, where we live in a one-party state, and any vote you cast is a waste of time. Really, I could do many, many great things with my time that don't involve standing in line, wasting my time, casting a purely symbolic ballot with no statistical significance. Now, if I lived in Wyoming, Utah, or the Dakotas, where my vote actually does carry statistical significance, maybe I would. But not here in California, no. An unimportant side question here, but has anyone ever recognized you in real life, either by voice or photo? You're getting pretty popular now, and I just think it's a likely possibility. Anyway, much love. Keep doing what you're doing. No, I haven't. I think you're overestimating my level of fame. Buenos evening, Edgar Ramos Villalobos Goldstein, Venezuelan listener here. Just wanted to say that your short-lived Tumblristas was the second thing this week that made me laugh so hard I woke up my parents. I made a mirror just in case someone missed it, but it's on 480p because fuck my fourth world internet speed. P.S. Through the Bible is pretty good. I listened to the Latin American version, and it was one of the first encounters with Christendom, and between your show and that show, it made me read the Bible again, and I think the English version should be as good as this one. That's cool. I'm glad to hear it. Hey mate, I've been listening since around the time the first Divine Marathon dropped, and I figured I would finally further reinforce the conclusions you've come to throughout the course of your show. So here's a skinny. Throughout the entirety of my sophomore year of college, I had a complete collapse of piety. I was a reprobate and sexual deviant in all respects, and that mindset was reflected in the classes I chose to attend throughout the year. Among them, a philosophy class, and get ready, a queer studies class. Both of these were taught by an aging fag who compensated for his hair loss and the shame that comes with being a tenured professor at a community college by getting piercings and tattoos that even a 15-year-old would be embarrassed of. Yeah, they have a very misplaced sense of shame. I get comments on the Vine Marathons all the time, this makes me ashamed to be gay. Oh, what? Eating cum doesn't? Moron. The philosophy class was predictable in that it regularly unfolded in one of two ways, learning the most basic concepts put forth by baby's first philosophers, or an hour-long tirade of fedora-tier rhetoric against Christianity. Not religion in general, just Christianity. Looking back, yeah, that's all philosophy school teaches you. It teaches you how to rationalize sodomy, and it teaches you to hate Christians. Looking back, it wasn't unlike the steady drip of low-hanging hate facts you find these days on any Twitter account with an anime girl profile picture. Actually, no, it was worse, because this fag would outright lie to his captive audience. He lied about the purpose of the Council of Nicaea. He lied about the contents within non-canonical scriptures, and he did it with a smile. The man may have been a walking biohazard unit, but he was obviously well-read, so he knew what he was doing. Yeah, this is the problem. People don't actually care about the truth. I posted a picture of these two white chicks making an absolute ass of themselves. One was in this, this leotard-looking thing, and it was like a thong leotard, and the other one was pretty much nude. She's like this giant fat chick, and she's wearing this mesh covering that shows her breasts in full with very little obscuring. And they're just making an ass out of themselves, and I, captured it with, joke about white girls, and somebody retweeted it, was like, oh, this is just a small minority. Bitch, 43% of white women voted for Hillary Clinton. It's not a small minority. Everybody's a fucking liar. They look at, the Jewish media lies, and then they go off and lie themselves. Don't believe me? Let's take Soiled Cinema's word for it. SoiledCinema.com, their review of Can Go Through Skin. Certainly you will not find a more screwed up and neurotic group of people nowadays than young white women, especially those from decadent Western European countries like the Netherlands, which prides itself on being the most progressively degenerate nation in the world as a place where the government is willing to pay for mentally ill men to chop their cocks off and pretend to be women and fund terrorists like Theo Van Gogh's assassin Mohammed Boyeri via welfare to sit around all day and plot the destruction of the Occident. Of course, you can watch various art house films from the Netherlands and tell there's something seriously wrong with the people there. But there are very few cinematic works that attempt to depict the sort of psychosis that many modern women seem to be plagued with there, as demonstrated by their lack of interest in producing children and xenophiliac fetish for Arabs, Negroes, and everybody else except actual Dutchmen. Well, how can you be attracted to the most beta of beta bitches? So yeah, I mean, look at the kind of movies they're making, look at the kind of art they're making, look at what they're going to school to major in, look how they're behaving. Especially in light of the election. Look how they're behaving. And this is not factoring in the amount of whores who are posing in MAGA hats. Behaving like total whores, and everybody's like, oh yeah, that's cool. You have the same political opinions as me, rather than saying like, wait a minute, what the fuck is wrong with you? This is another good part of this review. In his debut Golden Calf winning feature, Kyodai makes the big time, a work that is like Straub on steroids and with a soul meets the less abstract son of somebody in South African auteur Aryan Kaganov, demonstrated that young Dutchmen are sexual sadists and their female partners are reluctant masochists who long for emotion, but also have an undying craving for being pounded mercilessly with a rock-hard cock. Of course, as the assumed result of the further effeminization of Dutchmen over the past 2 decades or so, it seems that Dutch women are getting even more neurotic as a result of being pounded less and less by hard cocks. By less and less hard cocks. In the more recent art house work, Kan Door Huid Heen, aka Can Go Through Skin, directed by Esther Rotz, one bears witness to one of the most damning depictions of contemporary Dutch womanhood in the form of a uniquely unsympathetic young lady that also happens to be a sexual assault victim who moves away from urban Amsterdam apartment to a rotting shack without proper plumbing in redneck Zealand as a way to get over the fact that a towelhead pizza delivery boy beat her up and sexually defiled her. As Roth's film specifically demonstrates, the great thing about female filmmakers is that if they are not feminists pretending to project some sort of contrived pseudo-reality, they tend to unwittingly reveal the sheer and utter lack of morality that women have. Which makes sense why they all like to make friends with queers so much, and it should disturb us that white men are now going out of their way to make friends and play patty cake with these kinds of people. They want to be girls too. Yes, they do. The man may have been walking biohazard unit, getting back to the comment here, but he was obviously well-read, so he knew what he was doing. He knew he was lying to dumb college students, and he reveled in it. Second up was the queer studies class. Since the class met only once a week, we were required to go to a few of the meetings of the campus's Pride group, which the same professor also organized. Pride group was a rather grandiose term for the most pathetic and outright ugly group of faggots I'd ever seen circle jerking about how much better they were than straight people for 45 minutes. And regrettably, at the time, I had no qualms with this. But let me make it clear that they hate you. If you are straight, these people think they are better than you. Yeah, what have I been saying this whole time? They hate your guts. They will use you and then fucking stab you in the back. That's all they're good for. They'll say it with a wink and a smile and a veneer of detachment and irony, but they mean it. The professor was no stranger to expressing similar sentiments. However, this queer theory, they're constantly at war with us, and they're the only ones fighting the battle. We're fucking pathetic. We're like, let's be your friends. It's like the old right, they shucked and jived for brown people. The new right, they shuck and jive for homosexuals. They both hate your guts. They both hate your guts, just one of them, they actually have tribal interests, and it's not a sin to be brown. However, this queer theory class acted as a sort of wake-up call. Why? Because the professor actually played that old documentary, The Gift, about bug chasers, and then made us play apologetics for their actions, how they were just victims of mental illness. Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, they are mentally ill. Sodomites are mentally ill. And internalizing society's contempt for them. Even then, I couldn't wrap... Okay, look, you live with yourself more than you live with society. You have to deal with you every single second of every single day. You don't have to deal with society 24/7. You deal with you 24/7, and you carry around the contempt of yourself because you are a walking death wish. The act of the sodomite represents the death of the human species. Always has, always will. Even then, I couldn't wrap my head around how my professor could defend this with a straight face, and thankfully he's trying to do so as the beginning of the end for this disgraceful chapter in my life. As a final note, it only makes sense that most of the students in this queer studies class were faggots themselves, and at least half of them at some point in the semester would regale us with a teary-eyed tale of abuse or neglect they suffered as a child. Of course, they're all abuse victims, and that's all they seek to do. They seek to perpetuate the abuse virus, and they're very successful at it because the white man is the eternal homophile. We allow them refuge to continue on their cycle of abuse and bring new victims into the fold. At times, I wonder how they couldn't connect the dots between the abuse and their reprobate behavior, but I suppose at the time I couldn't manage to either. That's all for now. I think next time I'll tell you the tale of my time working for the state. It's a doozy. Yes, those are my favorite kinds of stories, so please share. From the New York Post, stop the insanity days after Donald Trump stunned the world by winning the presidency, which I predicted last year, by the way. I posted a picture on Twitter of Justin Trudeau running through the streets with rainbow flags and shit, and I said, some meta-political group celebrates the victory of Donald Trump. This white man is the eternal homophile, and they've proven me correct on that notion all throughout the year. Days after, liberal America remains in the throes of a massive mental and emotional breakdown. Anti-Trump protests have spread to more cities and continue to turn violent in Portland Thursday night. Rioters stoned police and vandalized businesses and cars. Anyone expressing support for Trump has become the target of unrestrained venom. There are calls to boycott New Balance. Its sneakers have been publicly burned because an official said Trump would be better on trade issues. Meanwhile, CEO of Grubhub, the online food delivery service, demanded that employees who agree with Trump resign because you have no place here. Quote, you have no place here, unquote. He had to retreat. His lawyers read him the First Amendment and noted that political discrimination also violates California law. This is just vicious stuff, but for pure pathos, crossing into the absurd, we turn as usual to the college campuses. Consider. The University of Michigan offered its traumatized students coloring books and Play-Doh to calm them. Are its students in college or kindergarten? The University of Kansas reminded its stressed-out kids that therapy dogs, a regular campus feature, were available. Cornell University, an Ivy League school, held a campus-wide cry-in with officials handing out tissues and hot chocolate. Tufts University offers its devastated students arts and crafts lessons. Okay, not kindergarten, more like summer camp. At campuses from elite Yale to Connecticut to Iowa and beyond, professors canceled classes and or exams because either because students asked or because instructors were too distraught to teach. The American church is the university. People's views, people's sense of self-worth completely hinges upon what kind of grade they get. And what kind of grade they get means, oh, I'm right. My opinions are right. I mean, that means I'm right. And its religion is politics. The jubilation of the other half of America is also pathetic. People don't realize that this is just your last hurrah. Enjoy your decade of palliative care. You people value the same things these neurotic students value, these rioters value. You're just less obnoxious about it. But I'm not stupid enough to look at how something is said and derive a truth from that over what is said. Seriously, go on r/TheDonald, say like, Donald Trump gave me the courage to finally start queering off, and you'll get 5,000 upvotes from all the stupid white people who were like, yay, we need to unite, yay, we need to unite on the basis of you committing abominations. The middle class dream is an absolute nightmare. The middle class dream is a nightmare. Common to Filth Radio, best in the world. Visit commonfilthradio.bandcamp.com/merch, buy a sticker, and get Common Filth Extra episode 43 for free all this week. Take advantage of it. And Consumerist Pagan Holiday is coming up on December 25th. It's a little over a month away. Get your shopping done now. You'll be happier, and do it through the Amazon.com affiliate link below. Click on that link, search for your items, add to your cart, and check out within 24 hours of clicking on that link, and I get a percentage of whatever you buy at no extra cost to you. Everybody wins. Common Filth Radio, best in the world.